make sure we're recording now. Okay, now I'll start with introductions. I'm Ashley White. For those who don't know me, I'm the Director of Health Policy and Strategic Alliances for the American Orthotic and Prosthetic Association. Joining me for this webinar is Sam Miller. He is actually, just go ahead and introduce yourself, Sam.
Cool. Yeah. Hey, everyone. My name is Sam Miller, and I'm Aopa's State and Federal Advocacy Manager. Really excited to do this over Zoom, kind of interact with y'all.
Yeah, and Nicole Verkailan will be joining us also. She seems to be having a little bit of a technical issue, but I know she'll be right back in, and I'll introduce her as well because she's going to be sharing some information with us during this webinar as well. Again, we mentioned at the top of the call that this is the first time we've done this via Zoom. And the reason that we changed over to Zoom versus just a broadcasted webinar is because some of the feedback we were receiving is that people wanted it to be a little more interactive. So in future promotions, we'll make sure that people know that this is going to be interactive, and so they'll kind of be aware that this is the dynamic. But we're trying to decide what you all are going to get the most out of, whether it's kind of this interactive, engaging sort of platform through Zoom, or if it's just the webinar itself through our GoToMeeting platform. So, we're kind of working through some determining what is going to be most impactful for our attendees. And with that being said, oh, and I see Nicole is joining. Let's see if she can hear us. Hi, Nicole, can you hear us?
Hey, Ashley, I can hear you guys now. I'm so sorry about that.
No, not a problem at all. Nicole, go ahead and introduce yourself, and we'll kick off the content.
Awesome. Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Nicole Verkeilan. I'm Aopa's Manager of Public Engagement, and super excited to be with you all today.
So we had a chance to talk a little bit about what we thought was most important for you all to know about key constituent building and what it really means, and kind of how it's going to relate to the upcoming policy forum. What we want you to take home about that, it's more than anything, understanding that a key constituent is someone that has a relationship or is building a relationship with a member of Congress or someone in that office. This means that it can be that you had, your babysitter is the daughter of someone that works for a member of Congress, or you attended church with someone that serves as a member of Congress or as a senator or representative. It can be that you knew someone when they were at the state legislature. A lot of times you'll see that individuals will start their career on city council or in the mayor's office or at the state legislature, and then they'll move on and become members of Congress. So you can start this journey of becoming a key constituent at any point in your career, in their career. And that is so true. I'm going to call some people out while we're on this call, but there have been some relationships that we've developed and that others, Aopa members and board members, have developed with staffers that have absolutely led us to actionable results in offices, because they knew someone long enough in their career that when that person actually became, the legislative assistant or legislative director in an office, that person had a relationship with Aopa. So we're going to talk a little bit about how to build that and how we're going to be building some of these relationships, hopefully during our policy forum coming up May 17th, 16th, 17th, and 18th. So 17th and 18th. Okay, so I'm going to just check really quickly. I'm going to share my screen and kind of talk through. I'm going to jump right into a real world example that we just experienced of how someone who has a relationship in a member of Congress's office can make a difference when you request that meeting. I'm going to ask Nicole, as I'm sharing my screen, I'm going to ask Nicole to share a little bit about Hannah Vinkara's background and her relationship with her Congresswoman, Kathy McMorris Rogers, as I share some pictures about, from our past Hill days, Hill experience.
Yeah.
Can you see my screen? Oh, Nicole, you're muted.
Okay. Are we good now?
Yep, we're good now. We can hear you.
Okay, great. I was just saying that it's great to see some familiar names on here at the end. If you want to go on camera so we can see you and kind of have some engagement, that would be wonderful. We're kind of trying out a new format with Zoom, but just great to be here with all you guys today. Thanks, Ashley, for sharing your screen and these slides. In terms of a little bit of background here, we went to Capitol Hill earlier this month with a special constituent. Her name is Hannah Van Kara, as well as her prosthetist, Alex Gates from Evergreen Prosthetics and Orthotics. But I actually got to know Hannah through Bill Crocker, who is a rep for OSER. And Hannah's from Spokane, Washington, and I live in Vancouver, Washington. And so Bill reached out to me after seeing Hannah's story in the local Spokane newspaper and said, hey, you got to meet this woman and hear about what she's trying to do. So Hannah is an individual with limb loss, was born congenital and had her amputation at 1 year, years old, and grew up in a military family. Her dad was a flight surgeon, and so she personally wants to become part of the military. She currently works as a nurse, and she wants to use, that trade and her passion in that career to become a nurse in the Navy. But currently, because of their policies, anyone who is a person with limb loss is medically disqualified from joining the military, even though she's passed all of the physical requirements that they've asked her to do. And so she got in touch with us and said, hey, is there a way that we could kind of bring this message together? And we said, let's bring you and your prosthetist and, the whole Evergreen team to DC and let's meet with some members of Congress as part of this to try and see what we can do. So it's been an incredible journey with her and in navigating that. The other part is that Hannah has been, I think, an incredible advocate in terms of what she's done engaging her member of Congress, which is Cathy McMorris Rodgers in her district in Washington. And this is kind of exactly what this is all about. She was able to set the stage for what led up to an incredible meeting with Cathy, which you can see in the picture on the right here. But Cathy McMorris Rodgers, Hannah had attended a number of her events. Basically, by the time that we got to DC, they were on texting terms, if that kind of helps establish what kind of relationship they had. But Ashley, if you'd like, I can kind of go into detail of what that meeting ended up looking like when we got to DC.
Yeah, so before you do that, I will add a little color to the back end of setting these meetings up and how influential it was that Hannah and Alex were both constituents, and kind of a little more about why that piece matters. So when we were setting up meetings for Hannah, we wanted to look at the broad scope of all of the issues that we wanted to address, both Hannah's entrance into the Navy as a nurse and the Medicare OMP Patient-Centered Care Act, and highlighting the fact that Alex Gates, as her prosthetist and the care that she was providing, is an example of how you can create opportunities for individuals who've lost arms and legs to do all of the things that they want to do if they have adequate care. And we really we made that connection back to our bill. And so we had meetings with offices that were relevant for both purposes. But when it came to the Cathy McMorris Rodgers meeting, that's her home district, right? That is her member of Congress. And so she was interested in both of these issues. She also serves on a committee of jurisdiction. So it's like an extra gold star, kind of like, okay, we really need to get her support for this bill, because ultimately if she didn't know about it, or she could completely prevent it from moving forward out of the committee that she serves on, which is the committee of jurisdiction, which is energy and commerce. So that's a little bit more detail about why this meeting was so specifically important. And there was this moment where we didn't think we were like running late. They were going to try to take her to the floor, and all this stuff was happening. And then there was this incident at the security gate. And so we weren't able to get through the security process in order to get back into the building so that we could meet with Congresswoman McMorris Rodgers. And so there were some phone calls exchanged, there was emails going back and forth. And basically what we ended up doing is meeting at the members only 24/7 door, which Congresswoman Kathy McMorris Rodgers actually walked down to get us and walk us into the building, because that's the only way that you can get in to the building. And I think, you know, at one point, Hannah asked Nicole, should I just text her? And there's just sort of like, I mean, because she could have, right? That's a thing that could have happened. And so the more you can build the relationship with the member of Congress, the more likely you are to be able to get a meaningful meeting. And so when we talk about a meaningful meeting, I do want Nicole to share a little bit more about what it was like in that meeting, because it was a really special meeting.
Yeah, and thank you for setting the stage for that. Just, you know, the stars were aligning and how important this meeting was with Congressman McMorris Rodgers. And when she met us at that 24/7, you know, door, you know, it was clear that her and Hannah had this beautiful relationship they were talking about. She immediately started talking about our kids, Kathy McMorris Rodgers, and, you know, just, you know, how are things going? And it was just a very personal relationship from the start. So, you know, we get in to the office, they kind of lead us back, and we go into Congressman McMorris Rodgers' office. And to our surprise, although as they were chatting, Hannah and Kathy, that her son, Cole, was going to be part of the meeting, as well as Cole's best friend, whose name was Lucy. And they're both young, you know, elementary school age kids. And so we go into her office, and we're all sitting around on couches and the seats. And it really just felt like we were in her living room type of meeting, which I've never had before. And I haven't had quite as many meetings as Ashley or Todd or Terry that are on the call. But to me, this was a really special meeting, and one of the kind of best, most impactful ones I've ever been in to that level. So as we were going, as we were all sitting down, you know, around in what felt like a family room, Kathy McMorris Rodgers introduces her son, Cole, and then his best friend, Lucy. And Lucy happens to be an individual who has cerebral palsy, and she shared her experience using an orthosis and talked about her orthotist and how she had the best orthotist. And it was just really cool to be able to see that and have that connection with Hannah. And then myself and Hannah and Lucy and Cole got a picture together at the end. And, you know, it was an amazing meeting to see that. And really at the end, what I thought was pretty incredible was Congresswoman Kathy McMorris Rodgers looked over to her, one of her staffers, and said, you know, let's do it. Let's write up some sort of bill or piece of legislation for Hannah on this. And so you could see how invested she was in Hannah's case and that relationship. And also during that meeting, we were able to, you know, talk about the Medicare OMP Patient-Centered Care Act, and Alec, who Ashley has had interactions with in the past. It was really just a dynamic meeting, bringing that together. But it wouldn't have been possible without the relationship that Hannah had built as a key constituent, and Alex as well, you know, being in Spokane as her prosthetist. Oh, you're on mute, Ashley.
Yeah, I just thought I would share the picture that you just referenced with Cole and Lucy. Can you all see my screen?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, great. It really was it was an incredible meeting that day. It was one of the most unique experiences I've had in any Hill meeting ever. And so I just wanted to, you know, provide that picture, just since you referenced it, Nicole.
Yeah, I love that photo.
Are there any questions about this idea, this concept of becoming a key constituent and how it can change the relationship that we have as a organization with, you know, with the offices, members of Congress, and how that can help us get our legislative priorities moved forward? No questions? Okay, well, we'll keep right on rolling then. I want to talk a little bit about Aopa's capacity and the reason that this is an important initiative for us and how we are building the key constituent network on our side. So what does it really mean to track this and to be able to use it in the future? So I'm going to share my screen again. And this time I'm going to be sharing, which some of you have seen, hope you are seeing right now. It's the Representative Kathy McMorris Rogers in Capital Canary. This is our legislative tracking software. We can track legislation, regulation, as well as members of Congress directly. So I'm going to show you that how we track our activity. You'll see here, I've got a reference here, so you'll be able to see the whole thing. This is the note about our meeting. It has the date of the event, the interaction type, who was there, if there was a federal staffer, what bill we were talking about, what committee that person serves on, who created it. I actually added the picture here, so it does give us the opportunity to add photos into this database as well, which is very helpful if we ever needed to reference back and sort of give credit to members of Congress that have been our champions. We'll have those stored in the system. But you'll notice that we've got these 3 boxes here. I'm going to ask Sam to talk a little bit about this in the bigger picture, but I'll speak specifically to this meeting. This constituent reference is anyone that was, that we've referenced. So sometimes this can be an organization's name, or we actually had members with us. So we've noted here that Hannah and Alex, who were both constituents, were present for this meeting. This is about building relationships for them. This is to make sure that anytime anyone from Aopa follows up about a meeting or with a member of Congress or their staff, that we're referencing the individuals that we know that they've met with in the past. So it's really about building, continuing to build. The key constituent here is obviously Hannah. We've talked all about why she's a key constituent. So this is just a little inside baseball on how we're tracking this. And Aopa has dedicated resources to building this out. I mean, the fact that Nicole is now part of this organization and Sam is on board to help us with this is really a testament to how dedicated we are to building out this process and to making sure that we can help you all develop relationships with your members of Congress at home. So I'm going to kick it over to Sam a little bit to talk about our advocacy tracking largely and how we do that more broadly than just this Kathy McMorris Rogers meeting.
Yeah, thank you, Ashley. So during these meetings, whenever we have a Hill meeting, if we ever mention, as Ashley said, if we ever mention an organization that's within a congressperson's district, they'll be kind of mentioned in these notes. And the reason for that is that we have this understanding of who is kind of at play in each district. And kind of one of the end goals for this is that these groups or individuals become sort of the trusted go-to resource for the member of Congress if they ever have any O&P related questions, or if they want their opinion on policy changes and things like that. And it's really kind of helping our members become kind of self-advocates or become the subject matter experts for members of Congress. If there's a bill introduced and they say, oh, this is related to O&P, I should go talk to ABC prosthetics and orthotics because they're the people that would know the most about this. And so part of what we're doing with the Key Constituent Network is to really help expand the capacity of O&P advocacy.
Thank you, Sam. Are there any questions or thoughts? Or I know, Nicole, when we looked at the registration list, we kind of built some of our presentation around who had registered to attend today. So we were going to call out a few people. I'm going to just put Terry Couple out there. No pressure to respond, but I do want to give Terry some credit. And Aaron Holm was originally scheduled to be on this today as well. And we were going to give him credit for their ability to get meetings, meaningful meetings with members of Congress on the spot. So in cases where there were meetings granted, but only those meetings were only granted to maybe a staffer in the office, and Aaron's picked up his cell phone. Terry has called it in the past his bat phone. Aaron will pick up his cell phone and he'll say, "Hey, I'm in town. I'm walking into your office," and the next thing we know, we're all in a member of Congress's office. Nicole, you have a similar experience, right?
Well, yeah, that it was a similar experience in that there happened to be a meeting that was going on with Tim Walz, and so we just decided we'd show up and kind of watch this meeting happening. And then at the end, Congressman Tim Walz came down and took a photo with all of us, and had that touch point, which was just really cool, and a testament to the work that Aaron and Terry have done year after year after year, coming to the policy forum. I think if anyone understands relationships, is that they take time to build, and that's what this is part of. And I think another important point that we wanted to share, that it's not always necessarily with the member of Congress that you're building this relationship with, it's also with the staffers, that they're staffers. And so one of the really cool things that happened recently when we went to Capitol Hill is that we had a meeting with the Office of Representative Susan Delbene. And when we went into her office, I hadn't been in there for a couple of years, but I had met with their staffer, Kyle Hill, a number of times. And so when we went into that office, he just lit up and was like, so good to see you. And he remembered me, and, it'd been a few years because of COVID and everything, but we picked right back up where we left off. And that's just, a fun thing to be part of this, is that you are building these relationships with these people, and it should feel that way, and it should feel fun in that sense, and really personal. So kudos to Terry and Aaron and the whole Minnesota crew that have been doing this work for quite a while, and to others out there as well.
Hi guys, it's Terry. Sorry I don't have video today, but thank you so much for the acknowledgement. And Nicole, I actually just saw that picture of you and Aaron and Rob with our now governor, Tim Walz, who was then a congressman, and that was a Veterans Affairs Committee hearing that we sat in on. And he recognized that we were there. And then he even made a call out to us during the committee hearing, welcoming our Minnesota group. So it really is. And Ashley, you're right. Aaron has what I call the bat phone. And that bat phone was to Congressman Eric Paulson. And it was just uncanny. We would go, you all know, for years we went, and we'll continue to go. And Aaron would say to me, "Well, are we going to see him or not?" And I said, "Well, it says staffer." And he said, "All right." And then, a quick call, a few hours beforehand, and lo and behold, he appears. So we try to call ahead of time and let our Congress people know that not only are we coming, but we're coming with amputees. And more often than not over the years, they try to make an attempt to actually be present, and they like the photo opportunity, quite honestly. So that's just something that I might add to this. And yes, it takes years to establish some of these relationships, and then sometimes they leave. So Congressman Eric Paulson, I think we visited him for at least 8 years, if not 10, and he is no longer in Congress. He was not reelected, and that was super hard because he was in Ways and Means, which was a really important committee for us in the House. And so now that he has since left, the person who took his place is not there in that committee. So, again, we just start building the blocks again. We have a congressman, a local representative who made it all the way to DC. So he is now a US congressman. That's Tom Emmer, who grew up in the same hometown as Rob Rickenberg. So every time we see him, they just hit it off. They know so many people who know so many people. And so it's been a couple of years that he's been in the House. So it's really nice to be able to see him and make that reconnection with Rob as well. So certainly thank you for calling it out. I hope that I added a little bit more to that. Apologies for the no video, but really excited about your trip with Hannah and that experience and all the excitement that's built up around that, and what a beautiful, perfect example of that is in so many ways for us. So thank you for sharing.
Yeah, thank you, Terry. Before I ask Sam to do the honors of announcing our Advocate of the Month, I want to share a little insight, since I think most of the people, I know a couple of people might not be joining us for the policy forum, but there are a lot of people on this call today that will be. There's a unique and different atmosphere when it comes to meetings in Capitol Hill right now. And it's so important if there are relationships that you can lean on right now, because the nature of setting meetings has changed. You can no longer just walk into your member of Congress's office. You have to set it up in advance. A member of their team from their staff has to walk down to security, bring you through security, sign you in at a desk, and then walk you to their office. That's on the House side. There are some slight differences on the Senate side. You still have to do all that security part, but the meetings are a little more flexible on the Senate side. But you can't walk around our office buildings like you used to be able to. This is going to change the nature of DC. Hopefully it's temporary, but it is right now still the way things are operating. I will learn a little more next week. I'll be back on the Hill next week, and we'll see if things are still operating that way. But my expectation is that it will be. So meeting scheduling is so important, and every connection that you can make in that meeting request is going to be vital. And so Sam and I have been putting a lot of thought into how exactly we're going to be requesting meetings. And we do think that having the constituent at the front of the meeting request is going to be vital, because that's the only way that we can actually start building that individual's relationship with that office. If we're doing it for you completely, I mean, we're going to give you all the pieces of the puzzle, but if we're doing it for everyone entirely, then it's just us building our engagement and not necessarily the constituent starting to build a relationship. So we've kind of gone through the process. We've got an outline for it, and you will all be receiving emails to, if someone in your state or district have not already requested a meeting, then you will be asked to request that meeting. And then when you're at the policy forum, we'll have you seated for part of the day on the 17th. We'll have you seated with everyone else in your state, so you can really organize around your plan, and part of our agenda will be also organized around how to set up your plan for the day. So we're excited about it. We're not concerned about navigating these new rules, but we know that it will look a lot different for attendees than it has in the past. You won't be able to just run down the hall and join someone else's meeting, but we're hopeful that we can remove any barriers in advance and have some really successful meetings at the policy forum. Any questions about policy forum? I know, again, a lot of registrants are on from, that are going to be attending policy forum. All right, no questions. Well, thank you, Terry. And Sam, I'll let you go ahead and announce our Advocate of the Month.
All right. Well, this is my favorite part, personally, but our advocate for April 2022 is Terry Cuffle. Congratulations. We appreciate your advocacy efforts, and we're looking forward to keeping that going. And I'll contact you for your reward after this.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining. I really hope that we can continue doing this via Zoom. If you've got feedback for us, please provide it. We shifted from GoToWebinar because we wanted to make sure that attendees had an opportunity to engage directly with us. And we are trying to build something here that's more robust, that touches more people's lives, that helps people learn how to be advocates themselves. And so we want to grow these webinars, and we want to make sure that we get involvement from lots of different people. So if you have individuals in your organizations that are, new to the OMP space or in administrative roles, and you think that they would be interested in advocacy, please encourage them to attend these webinars. We've taken down a lot of the barriers in terms of registration and all of that. So we're hopeful that we'll be able to grow the attendance for these in the future. Thank you so much for joining us today. If there are no other questions, we will say goodbye and look forward to seeing you all at the Policy Forum. Bye, everyone.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, y'all.
Good to see you guys.
Good to see you, Todd.